Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's Jean Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thank you for joining us on X Rumble and YouTube. Thank you to our wonderful moderator, Ronnie, in the live chat. You're loved and appreciated, my friend. Thank you so much. Of course, my wonderful wife, Christine, is in the live chat as Inspired, the Wise Thumbs, and everyone else. Welcome to what I deem to be a very, very important topic. I think some much needed clarity every now and then on this. And as always, I don't claim to be in possession of the truth. This is simply what I have experienced, what has shown up as true in our reality, and what I could see work over and over and over again. So it's a solidified concept. And what we're talking about here is the future. And there's so many misconceptions about it, connected to fear, worry, doubt, of course. That's the main thing. But also, what is it actually? How does it come about? And does it exist? Well, let's talk about it. Let's look at the few common misconceptions about the future here, which probably is the best way to start. Right off the bat, there is a big one, and it's that the future is a fixed destination. You know, it's already written. I just have to wait and see what happens. I call bullshit on that one, but it is most definitely what is in the interest of those who wish to control us, for us to believe that, because that is the ultimate, the opposite of empowerment, right? It is discourage. It means we're simply pawns on the chessboard of a future that has already been written. Now, I'll give you a very quick and logical counter on this one. If the future is already a fixed destination, if it's written, if it's already decided on, there would be no need for the mass manipulation, the psychological operations, and the huge belief systems to infuse us with anything, because if it's a preconceived notion, if it's a fixed destination, why bother? Okay, so logic dictates future is not at all a fixed destination. Then there is the cynic's view, the glass half empty view. The future will be like the past, but worse. Well, no, and we're going to get into it. But basically, this notion that history always repeats itself and it keeps getting worse it's not an inaccurate observation, but it doesn't mean that it accurately describes the truth. You're describing the effect of something, not the root of something, not the actual truth. Now, the effect is true. If certain criteria are not met and certain truths are not known, then yes, that's usually what happens. However, it is not the truth. A big one, too, is technology equals progress. The more advanced the tech, the better the future will be. Now, you've heard me say this over and over again. If that were the truth, then we should be healthier, better, morally higher, spiritually more attuned, and live more harmonious lives. That simply doesn't hold true. As a matter of fact, the opposite might be a little more true than that. What else are common misconceptions? The future is predicted by experts, which is exactly what most people want to look at. They want to look at experts to tell them what the future is going to be. Now, granted, there are certain fields where this might hold some validity, but we're going to get into why experts can actually tap into those potentials, why some can more accurately than others predict events to come. There's a clear science actually behind it. The future is out there. It's far away. I'll deal with it later. Good luck with that approach, but that is literally where I would say, number one, the future is a fixed destination and the future is out there are the two most commonly held beliefs. And hence, most people, that's why they don't really want to think about the future, or even the concept of future, or the concept of what is going to happen in their lives. So you could probably take 80% of the population and they would fall under one of the two categories. And then there is, of course, sort of the defeatist view is I don't matter in the big picture. One person can't change anything, so why bother, right? Why even think about it? All these are misconceptions, very carefully crafted, uh, beautifully done by those who wish us to believe such things. So let's talk about what the future actually is. It doesn't exist. It never existed and it never will exist. And this is perhaps sort of a strong statement, a mind bender, but the future is just a concept that we create in our minds of an experience that hasn't happened yet. In our imagination, we create a gap between here, which is the only moment that exists, an artificial gap, and an experience that will happen down the line as we imagine it. And that experience will either be close to the same of what the present moment is, or it will be different in our imagination. But that's all there really is. It's an imagination, right? Hence, the future only exists as a concept in our imagination, just like the past only exists as a memory, which so often is not even accurate because it's reimagined. And that's why two people that were in the same experience have vastly different memories of it the more time passes, depending on who they are and whether they are, sort of feel peaceful about themselves or conflicted. If someone's very conflicted about themselves, they usually don't like to describe the past accurately. So those concepts are nothing but things that we hold in our brain, in our mind, in our imagination. The future will never exist. There will only be another present moment, a continuation of the present now. Okay? So if we can accept that there is no set future from our perspective, right? Because time outside of our human perception doesn't exist as such, then we are talking about thought forms and potentials and visions. And that's really where it gets juicy and beautiful. So let's look at some of the things that people throw in my face when I say that is what is prophecy? Because they say, listen, John, we have a history of prophets. They've accurately shown us and told us what will happen, and then it happened. Okay, well, I'm not going to say that's not true, but what did they really do? Prophets, people that have a sense that is dormant in many, that sense activated, they can tap into the current energetic momentum, and they can very accurately see how that momentum will play out unless it's changed. Now you have to think about something. The world wasn't nearly as fast paced as it is now. Before mass communication, mass media, the world was very slow moving. Views didn't change for generations. Beliefs didn't change for generations. So once you were able to tap into an energetic momentum of where the collective average consciousness was, what was, so to speak, in the field, you could see where that potential would unfold much easier. It has become easier. I mean, it used to be easier, has become a little more challenging to do that. But prophets pick up on the dominant energetic trajectory. Then prophecy is often recorded in scripture and in other important books and is being disseminated through belief systems, religions, and other structures so that it solidifies within the belief systems and minds of the masses, which makes the prophecy that much more likely, usually, to unfold. But people have to believe in it, right? People that hear prophecy but don't believe in it or want to prepare for it or want to sort of soften the energy of that prophecy, they're not helpers for that prophecy. So if you know, and if you can accept that intelligent beings knew this a very, very long time ago, and that we knew this a very, very long time ago, you could see how this could be used as manipulation. Edgar Cayce, a famous seer of the 20th century, said prophecy is always conditional. Conditional and based on what is whether that energetic momentum will be carried forward. If it's not carried forward, then that prophecy won't come to fruition or not in the same form. What else do we have in today's world? We have mass rituals and belief engineering. Like I said in the beginning, if the future was set in stone, you would not have to do all that. It wouldn't be necessary. So this is why self-proclaimed elite groups, you know, the secret societies and the everybody who believes they're above the average person, the technocratic planners also, they craft belief systems and media to shape the masses. What do you see coming out of the Hollywood studios? You have to eliminate the classification of there's a difference between news, policy, fiction, novels, plays. In the world of creation, there is no difference. If you can make the mind believe a story for 90 minutes or 2 hours in the movie theater or while they're watching a movie or a show, creation happens. Doesn't matter whether it's fiction or not. Plays no role. That's what these folks know. That's why the imaging, the projection of this technocratic dystopian future in all movies, it comes at all times from all angles. Why? Because they understand how the future is actually shaped and created. That's why they use mass rituals. That's why I say don't go and watch the freaking Super Bowl and all these other shows, because you don't know how your energy and your co-creative power is being misused while you are distracted. The more people believe a narrative, or at least believe it to be inevitable, doesn't really matter, the more likely that future is actually going to solidify in our reality. Okay, so now we have to talk about what actually is shaping things to come and experiences. And we can't do that without understanding what elemental images are, because that's what these folks are working with. Now, elemental images used to be only images that were created in the mind, of course, of people, you know, strong blueprints in the consciousness where someone's vivid imagination could see a vision, and then they had the intention to bring that vision into our physical world, if you will. Today, those elemental images, like I said, are translated into movies and books and shows and concerts and videos and AI videos. Those elemental images now have a much faster way of reaching the masses. So they're being used, but elemental images, it's a science. It's actually the science of creation. Within this human avatar, there is a way for us to actually not only have a vision of the future, as in, oh, this might occur, or I can see how this could happen, or I have a wish. It is much stronger than that. It is literally an act of creation where you can sense and taste and smell and feel. You are so engulfed in that vision, and in that moment you can't tell the difference between your present reality and that vision reality. That is where creation happens. And when such images are created and held over longer periods of time, we're going to talk about the power of that, the power of scaling. When such images are held and created, then the potential for them to show up rises exponentially. um Literally, these, in this construct, in this reality, the strongest vision is directing the energetic forces that then create the material forms, the equivalent of what we envision. And it is truly that way. If you can hold a real vision, and if you know the science and art of how to do that and you learn it, there is not a possibility that, at least to a certain, if not large degree, excuse me, that vision is going to come to pass. Now, when you don't acknowledge certain things in that creation process and ignore them, you're going to not just be disappointed, but you're going to try to break rules that you have no business of breaking, and it won't work. So that's what we have to talk about too. There's individual reality creation, which is you, your life, your immediate experience. Now, your immediate experience does not happen completely independently of the world around you, but there is a certain level of independence that your individual reality has, and you can actually create more independence, right? You decide how much influence the happenings of the world are going to have on you to a certain degree. So, when you create a precise image and infused with feeling, belief, and consistency over a certain period of time, you begin creating an elemental image that has the power to come about in your life. You must practice energetic shifts. Why? Right now, your energetic momentum is based on the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you have and take right now. That's your energetic momentum. If you change nothing, then the moment that comes after that and the moments that comes after that, which you describe as the future, as tomorrow, as next year, is not going to fundamentally be different. It's going to be a progression of what is right now. If you change your energy, and that is a practice that has to take place over at least a period of 3 months, because that is how long it takes for our physiology to change, for our hormonal processes to change, for our neural pathways to start connecting and firing differently. So if you start changing your energy consciously every day for 3 months at least, you will create new energetic patterns, and the vision that you create during that time and will continue to create will begin to solidify in your life. The image that you then hold and have sense, literally, it's a creation. It's like a keystroke on a keyboard. This reality is pretty mathematical. It is pretty accurate. If you are accurate, it responds accurately. If you're very broad and very wishy-washy, that's kind of how reality responds too. It's a mirror, yes, but people use this as sort of an oversimplified way of describing either law of attraction, law of vibration. It is an art, a science, and a craft. So it has to be worked at. It has to be perfected, right? Just like everything else. Otherwise, it isn't good. It doesn't work really well. So individual creation means that we have a tremendous amount of creator control over how we create our lives. Now, most people, or a lot of people, don't want to hear that because that's not their experience, but they haven't really invested much time in that. They've invested time in other things, but not in that. But if you do, actually, you will see that this is true. Now, there are boundaries to this. You can't override the free will of others. You will have cooperative people in your timeline. Those are people that vibe at a similar vision level as you do, and that will be sort of the helpers that show up, if you will. But you can't override the free will of others. You can't forcibly include your parents or your siblings or your spouses in your vision if they're not an active part of it. You don't have the right to do that. So you can't say that, oh, it is my vision to change my partner so that he or she will do this and not that, and act this way and not that way. That's not your right to do at all. And if you try to sort of force your creation power on that, you're misusing that power, and it will be sort of mirrored to you accordingly, because you don't have the right to do that. You have to always respect another's sovereignty. However, what you can do is invite. What you can do is lead by example. You can shine your light and invite others to join the vision. That is your right, but they have to accept with their free will. Then there is collective future creation, which is which is basically where the master class comes in, because we are now at a large scale, sort of, everyone who isn't an NPC is beginning to see that the collective reality shift is dramatic, it's fast, and it's not what conscious creators would actually want had they used their conscious creator power. And so if we want to shift collective reality, we have to meet certain conditions. The dominant image in this construct, in this world, on this earth, the dominant vision will come to fruition, not exactly that way, because there's always some dissonance, but the dominant vision leads. That's why I can, to a certain degree, predict what we're going to see in a little bit down the line, because there is a dominant energetic momentum, right? For example, the technocratic AI driven momentum is huge. It's massive. That's why I say certain things cannot be stopped at this point. We can only start to soften that vision by infusing a better, more beautiful, more cohesive, more coherent vision. Each person that awakens to their co-creator power, and specifically after having created their own lives in a more harmonious way, you can only add to the balance and harmony of the collective if you yourself have created a balanced and harmonious life. Can be very simple, but it has to include balance and harmony, right? And it's not just about numbers, it's actually about the level of consciousness and coherence. And we've talked about the concept of consciousness compensation, which means that people that vibrate at a higher level have actually more creator power than those who don't, and actually they compensate for those who are on a lower level. Now that sounds like superior thinking, but it's nothing to do with that. It's literally an algorithmic a logarithmic concept. The higher you rise, the bigger your power. It's just the way it is. And here we come to the concept of scaling. And we cannot understand how collective creation can happen if we don't understand what scaling is. Now, in a digital world, scaling means growing something efficiently, exponentially, and intentionally. And I want to focus on the word exponentially. What does that mean? We really, in our minds, don't have a concept of exponentiality. We know things that grow in a linear way. We know that a tree is going to grow a foot and a few inches, depending on the tree, a year. We know that if everything goes well, each year it will bear more fruit and so forth. But that is linear growth. Exponential growth is basically, you might call it an explosion of growth after a certain threshold is met. You can go and look at the compound interest principle. So interest, interest goes up sort of like a more linear curve, but when the compound interest factor hits after a number of years, interest goes up like a rocket. That is exponentiality. And it is a concept that we can only start to wrap our minds around. But what happens when we scale imaging? That means we start consciously infusing the vision and the elemental images into everything that we do, which, welcome to Inspired. It's literally an elemental image creation. That's what it's all about. It's only to do that. It was birthed from that idea, and that's why we show up every day. That's scaling. So in conscious creation, scaling means repeating, intensifying, and emotionally charging a specific thought form or vision, spreading it across time, people, and layers of being, mental, emotional, behavioral, making a vision so dense, vivid, and resonant that it must materialize. Here is what most people don't take into account when they talk about collective creation. Whenever a strong vision is being created, where there is another strong vision, those strong visions are going to clash especially if they're very different. So if you have a controlling, technocratic, AI-driven, dystopian strong vision, which we do have, and you have a beautiful, sovereign, freedom-loving, human, nature-centric, creation-based vision, which we also have, it's just smaller, those images will clash. If you don't take into account opposition and already include in your vision what you will do and how you will work and act on that opposition, if that isn't part of your thinking, you've simply not created a very complete vision. That is why creation in the individual reality is usually easier. You will also have opposition, but usually smaller, because the changes are mainly about you. But when you are in the work of helping to shift collective consciousness and collective creation, well, there you're clashing with visions and other interest groups. So you must include the calculation of opposition. That doesn't necessarily mean fighting. It means dissolving the effect of opposition before it happens. So when it happens, it has no teeth. And that's what the true creator knows how to do. That's when you can accelerate your thinking to the pace where you see all these things and you include them in your calculations, and boom, you still make that vision happen. And this is what scaling really does, is when you show up over and over again and you solidify a truth. You know, there's so many lies we're told that I don't believe that a truth doesn't have to be repeated. It has to be repeated over and over again. The truth about who we are, what our hidden powers are, what is constantly bombarding us, so we can heal from that, shield ourselves, rise above it. All those things are incredibly important. Reality bends to what is most deeply felt, most consistently envisioned, and most broadly believed. That's why they invented the television. Television, the radio, the internet, satellites, smartphones, tablets, screens above screens everywhere. Why? So we can be engulfed in the vision telling of others, distracted from our own thinking, distracted from our own creation. And I would encourage everyone to first and foremost focus on the harmony and balance in your own life. That is the first beautiful co-creation, to step back into creator power and start envisioning what you and your life look like when you and your life are in harmony and balance. Because from harmony and balance, everything else is birthed. So that should be the first step. Okay, that's the first thing. And how do you do that? You must scale within. So first, I would encourage everyone to create every morning, and this is easy to do, an energy shift ritual. Unless you do something, you will wake up with the same energy that you woke up yesterday, give or take a few percent off and off and on. That's just how it is. Your body is programmed for habitual expression. Your biochemistry wants consistency. Good or bad doesn't really matter. It just wants consistency. Now you decide, want to shift from bad to good. Start your day with 5 to 10 minutes of breath work, followed by maybe 5 to 10 minutes of just silence or meditation. You will shift your energy, you will shift who you are in that moment, and you will shift your energetic imprint. And then you start with what vision comes to you. Write it down, script it out, write your gratitude statements, what you are grateful for, and stay in that state for as long as you have creative power. Once you feel you start forcing it, step away. Forcing does nothing. You can't force a vision. It's a creative process. Embody new beliefs. This is the shift. New beliefs are not just something you think about. It is something that you solidify in your reality over and over and over again, moment after moment after moment. You practice it. You practice what it feels like to say that belief out loud. You say it to yourself in the mirror. And if somebody thinks this sounds stupid, well, who are you justifying this to? Who do you feel stupid in front of? Who you're ashamed of? Yourself? Well, get over it. Get over yourself. In the beginning, it's going to look and sound stupid. You looking at yourself in the mirror, talking to yourself. You're saying something that doesn't really sound true yet. Well, do it about 1,000 times and it will start sounding true. Do it 1,000 times more and it will start becoming true. Do it 1,000 times more and you won't ever believe that you have felt any other way. That is what shifts do. Meditation is nothing but a shift in energy, which creates a shift in perspective. And that's why you can travel into the void in a meditation while your body stays right here in the here and now. And somebody might walk past you and they say, well, Jean's right here. And I'm laughing. I'm not even close. I'm far out there. Okay. So anything that allows you to shift your energy on a daily basis is like a turbo boost for your vision. Okay. New, higher energy, smoother, more beautiful creation. Consistency. It's not just the mind. It's not just the body. It's not just action. It's the coherence of the three. You have to start being a consistent, coherent being. Say what you mean what you say, do what you say you're going to do, have all those things become consistent. Act on your beliefs, not on your fears. You don't think a new life into being, you scale your entire inner system into a new timeline. And that can mean whatever it means to you. It doesn't mean you have to be a huge action taker. It's whatever you are wanting it to be. That's not for me to decide. It can be as little or as much action, adventurous, or calm, peaceful, quiet as you want it to be. And here, when we shift the world, when we want to shift the world, then we go into creating images, symbols, music, language, videos. That's why people who are have the desire to help shift collective consciousness usually have the inner drive to create different art forms that represent that new consciousness or that higher consciousness. They want to do it through music, they want to do it through art, they want to do it through videos and movies, they want to do it through craftsmanship, decoration, of course, gardening and landscape. I mean, all those things. People want to express that consciousness. As a matter of fact, we need to create because our creations inform us about where our consciousness really is. We learn from our creations about ourselves, right? But it also helps us. It helps us to get things seen and felt and repeated and believed. And I'm gonna, after the show today on the outro, so to speak, I'm gonna play a song for you that I wrote. I think last year before last. I don't know. I released it last year. It's called "Time to Be Free." But what I described in that song was a reality that hasn't really manifested yet, but I sing about it as if it is already the truth because I decided on it. I decided that is the reality that I am experiencing. And so when I play the song, I want you to just focus that this is a creation into the future. That's what it was intended to be. That's what I think music generally should be. It can be critical, sure. I mean, there's all kinds, but it's a beautiful tool for creation. And if we want to scale it, that's what music can do. That's what public speaking can do. That's what books can do. Movies can do. Group meditations can do. Communities do that every day. When a community starts a farmer's market, and there's 3 farmers that show up, and 2 of them still do it the conventional way, and 1 does it a more natural, organic way. Well, after a while, that starts to take root, and then more show up, and then this shows up, and then more people start looking at, oh, look at that guy. His natural thing tastes much better than our conventional thing. And in a few years, you have this huge farmers market with 100 stands, and everybody wants to have the purest, the most natural, the most high vibing product out there. Well, that is what scaling looks like. Now you have literally created a new reality in that space. That's what scaling does. Don't underestimate the power of that. So it's not about converting or convincing people, it's about charging the field so that the strongest vision wins. This is what is inspiring when we talk about the future. The future doesn't exist other than as the thought form, and somebody has decided, somebody who is literally scripting the future powerfully. They put it in scripture, the script, they put it in all kinds of ancient texts and roles and stuff like that. And all they have done is decided that they were going to be the ones writing it for us. What an arrogant thing to do, but they did it. Here's the thing. We can make that decision too. And we can be much more inviting with it rather than forcing, and just say, we invite people to join a different vision. We invite people to reimagine their lives. And last but not least, when you think about why it is so easy to predict these cycles of destruction, floods, and other cataclysms and stuff like that, they have one common theme. The more that we distance ourselves from who we really are and from our true natural existence, the more chaos we experience in ourselves and in the world around us. And what is the quintessential consequence of too much chaos? Destruction. I mean, that's just what happens when too much chaos occurs. So it's not hard to predict that if the world continues to go more and more artificial, if we continue to distance ourselves and set ourselves apart from nature rather than being a part of nature in coherence with it, then destruction must follow. That's not hard to predict, right? It's not like you need to be a rocket science. But if we move towards it, towards our true nature and the essence of who we are and the essence of nature itself, well, then we will walk towards creation, not towards destruction. That is also not a hard thought to accept. So that's why, if you want to get an accurate prediction about the current energetic momentum, that's not hard to do. It's much more interesting to imagine what can be in our lives and collectively what could be. I know that's what I get excited about. That's what keeps me up at night. That's what gives us energy and lets us show up. And that's the power of scaling. So don't let anyone convince you that the future is already written. They would want you to believe that, sure, but it's bullshit. And if you find a script, throw it back in their face and say, that might be your script, but it's not mine. All right, my friends. I want to invite you to Honey Talks. My honey looks at me here, my wife.
Well, I was wondering if you want to kind of say a little bit about what we are planning.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that. Well, first off, an invitation to Honey Talks. That's going to happen in about 18 minutes on Locals, which is the show that Christine and I do together. And it's going to be basically a Q&A. So if you want to join us there, inspired.locals.com. It's a wonderful platform, great people. That is our subscription platform. So most shows are for our supporters there. And that is $7 a month or $70 a year as a discount. So thank you for everyone who is with us there. And also, I'm going to just hint at something. Based on two shows that we did recently, Christine and I felt very, very deeply inspired to create an online retreat. We first thought about in person, but given that so many people have commented from all over the world, we wanted to give everyone an opportunity. So we're literally in the process of creating a beautiful, probably 2.5 day online retreat that's going to happen. It looks like in the earlier days of next month, July. We're going to let you know all about it. But we are what can I say? My skin is tingling. The hair on my neck is standing up because of the joy and excitement we have about creating this. And so, yeah, if you're on locals, join us in a few minutes, 1 p.m. Central. And other than that, it was an honor and a pleasure to be with you today. You know, we love you. We appreciate you. And we're going to end this show today with the song Time to Be Free. See you all very soon. Must be something in the water or something in the air. I can feel it getting stronger. The signs are all there. It's written in the stars. It's printed in the sand. It's a whisper getting louder, a whisper in the wind. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. I can see it in the faces of strangers walking by. Not a word that is spoken, just a spark in their eye. A spark that lights a fire deep down in their soul. Ain't nothing that can stop it once that wave starts to roll. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, everybody sing with me. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. From the east to the west, from the south to the north, there's a beautiful awakening. It's time to be free. It's time to be free. It's time to be free.